All right. It is a snowy start of our morning today, and I'm gonna record this little reading for you. Not gonna record any sort of commentary. This is just strictly the reading. I'll break up the charter text, but beyond that, look in the directions of the activity for full and complete directions to the assignment. This is just the reading of the sacred space activity. All right. Encounter, colonialization, and devastation. Elementary U.S. history. It does. Early European explorers found tribal people fascinating because they were different. But because these tribal people did not live, look, or act like they did, most explorers before and during the colonial period thought of tribal people as savages who lived like animals instead of humans. Quick PSA on that word. That word savages, that has changed over the years, but it's always been a derogatory word, a word that we don't use, a word that um, people used to use in the past to make other people seem less than human. And so this is a word that we're not going to say in our classroom or on the bus or at the playground or recess. This is a word that is demeaning. It's an insult word, so we're not going to use it. Although the tribal people looked human in form, to early Europeans, they were barely human in their customs. Now, customs, I said I wasn't going to do a commentary, and here I am doing a commentary. Customs are things that your family would do or your extended family would do. Like my family would do spaghetti on a Sunday. That would be one of our customs. We would all get together for holidays at my grandma's house. That would be part of our customs, right? So customs are things that your family does or your community. One word that was often used to describe them and them that we're talking about is the first peoples. One word that was often used to describe them was beasts. The Virginia Charter of 1606 was a way to bring God to the savages, since going the Christian way was considered civilized. In the charter, and we know charter as one of our vocab words, charter is kind of like a permission slip. It gives you the ability to do something on behalf of the king. So in the charter, King James I declared that British colonization from present day Canada to South Carolina. The charter had only one purpose: to Christianize the tribal people. Here's kind of some old text. This is old text from the charter, so it's a little bit harder to read. We don't really talk like this anymore, but we'll go through. I'm going to read it through, and then I'm going to break it up into two parts. One part talks about a type of people that we're talking about, and the second talks about a goal that King James, the author of this document, had. In propagation of Christian religion to such people, as yet live in darkness and miserable ignorance of the true knowledge and worship God, and may in time bring the infidels and savages living in those parts to a human civility and to a settled and quiet government. I'm going to break this up. In propagation, if I'm propagating a field, this is often a farming term now. If I'm propagating a field, I'm putting seeds on it. If I was to propagate my s'more, maybe I'm putting my marshmallow on the graham cracker. So you're bringing something or you're putting something on. In propagation of Christian religion to such people, and we're talking about the Native Americans, as yet live in darkness. So as yet, Mr. Geving's not holding any coffee. As yet, the sun hasn't come up yet. As yet. So as yet would be it's not there yet, right now, currently. In bringing forth Christian religion to the Native Americans who right now live in darkness and miserable ignorance of a true knowledge and worship God. So they don't understand what's going on with God yet. He wants to bring forth Christian faith to people who don't have it. Their lives are dark and ignorant of his God. Now here's his goal: and may in time bring to these infidels and savages living in those parts, in the New World, to a human civility and to a settled and quiet government. If he's able to bring God to them, then his goal is that by bringing Christianity, his form of a God, they're going to have a quiet government, a better style of civility, being better humans. That's his goal. And our cartoon here says, they won't learn the language, they're not assimilating, they don't look like us. I say, put them back on the Mayflower. And our two native tribal members looking at the pilgrims. I'm right here. As settlers purchased land from the tribes, they thought they could live in harmony with the tribal people as soon as they were Christianized. Later, the Catholic and Anglican churches sent missionaries, another vocab word from our Spanish French unit. When we looked at missionary, someone who brings a faith. In this sense, we're bringing a Christian faith. Later, the Catholic and Anglican churches sent missionaries to the colonies to convert the tribal children to Christianity because they thought it would be easier to teach the youngsters than the adults. Colonists at first thought they were successful since no tribal people complained. Tribal people remained silent even when colonists verbally abused and insulted them. One chief, Powhatan, hoped the colonists and churches would fail, but the English kept going forward with their civilizing tactics. Now, if colonists are verbally abusing and insulting people, that really doesn't seem like it's civilizing, does it? If I'm trying to teach you to be a better person and I'm verbally abusing and insulting you, it's hard to have a good role model for that, right? Whoa. Then in 1622, it became clear to nearly every tribal leader that the colonists would demand more land from them, demand them to convert to Christianity, and demand that they give up their tribal lifeways. Opachankano, this is how you say his name, Opachankano. I'll say it, Opachankano. The leader of the Powhatan Nation attacked Jamestown, waged war against Jamestown. Over 300 colonists died. And we know Jamestown was another vocab word. Jamestown is the first established settlement, permanent settlement. During the next 50 years, tribal nations and colonies alike waged war against each other. Colonists felt justified in destroying these savages and did not try to understand the tribal people. Tribal people were angered by how the colonists treated them. Each colony was different because of the settlers' various backgrounds, goals, and interactions with tribal people. The Anglicans and Catholics, for example, protected smaller nations against the more powerful tribes living nearby. Land was always purchased, and the tribal people were doing well. Just the same, they tried to Christianize them without much success. Even the nonviolent Quakers of Pennsylvania could not convince tribes to convert to Christianity. But conversion and war were just two of the ways the colonists and later the United States would use to try to solve what they would call the Indian problem. Because, I'm right here, because of a lack of immunity to European diseases, entire tribes were wiped out by wonderful plagues. Now, this word wonderful, that's changed meanings, right? Now I would say that this ice cream is wonderful, this pen is wonderful. At the time, wonderful is big. It could be something that's really grand. So we could say that that is a wonderful elephant. And what we're saying isn't that the elephant is really, really nice. It's that it is a huge elephant. If I lived in a castle, I could say I had a wonderful castle or a wonderful house. It's not saying that it's a cool house, it's neatly decorated, anything like that. It's just that it's really, really big. It's a big thing. And so these tribes were wiped out by huge plagues, such as smallpox, measles, mumps, and typhus. Before contact with European explorers and colonists, it's estimated that more than 90 million indigenous people called North and South America home. Sadly, 95% of them succumbed to disease before mass colonization of the Americas even began. In fact, when the colonists arrived at areas already cleared for farming, they mistakenly interpreted this as proof that God had prepared the land for their use and their use alone, when in reality, tribal people had been farming the land for thousands and thousands of years, only to be wiped out by disease just before the colonists' arrival. If you're at the hospital because you're sick, and I show up at your house and I let myself in and say, hey, check it out. There's nobody here. This is perfect. This is left for me. My God made me this house. Nobody's in here. It's clearly for me. This is proof that he wants me to be here. That's the same mentality that these colonists are having. They're walking into places where the disease has traveled faster than they did. The disease has already gotten there, it's killed off entire communities, entire villages and towns, and the colonists are showing up and saying like, here's proof we were meant to be here, check it out, it's all cleared for us, somebody did all this work and they built a village for me. How cool is that? Well, it's not cool, they died. Truth is, Europeans tried a number of ways to clear the continent of tribal people: war, disease, enslavement, and conversion. All of them worked for some disease to some degree. I've got a cough coming on. Excuse me. All of them worked to some degree, but none as successful as the spread of European diseases. Later, the newly formed United States would continue the colonial policy of war and Indian removal as solutions to the Indian problem. And what exactly was that problem? That the Indians existed at all.